From the moment the Night King first appeared on screen, we were trained to misunderstand him. Not because the story deceived us, but because we arrived in Westeros carrying assumptions shaped by every other story we had ever consumed. We expected villains to want power. We expected armies to seek control. We expected wars to end with someone standing over the fallen and claiming a throne. So when the dead began to march, when winter started moving with intention, we assumed this was simply the greatest conquest Westeros had ever faced. A new tyrant, a final boss, a ruler who wanted everything. But the Night King never behaved like a conqueror. And that should have been our first warning that we were asking the wrong questions. He never spoke, never negotiated, never explained himself. In a world overflowing with monologues, justifications, and self-serving philosophies, his silence was deafening. Even the cruelest characters in Game of Thrones wanted to be understood. Cersei justified her brutality as survival. Tywin wrapped cruelty in legacy. Daenerys framed destruction as liberation. Everyone wanted witnesses to their righteousness. The Night King offered nothing. No ideology. No manifesto. No promise of a better world. His silence wasn't emptiness. It was intent, because conquerors need witnesses. They need subjects who understand they have been defeated. They need survivors who remember who sits above them. The Night King did not want submission. He wanted removal. Every step of his march reflected patience, not ambition. He waited thousands of years before moving south. He did not rage against the wall when it still stood. He did not attack out of desperation or hunger for territory. He waited. He watched. He allowed time to erode belief in him. He let humanity dismiss him as a story, a myth, a fear used to scare children. And when the world was ready to forget him again, he returned. Not as a king demanding loyalty, but as a force correcting what he believed was a mistake, the continued existence of humanity itself. This is where we miss the point. The Night King was not at war with people. He was at war with memory. Westeros does not survive because of armies or crowns. It survives because of stories. Houses rise and fall, but their names endure. Battles are lost, but songs keep the fallen alive. Even the poorest child in the realm knows legends of long-dead kings, ancient wars, and impossible heroes. Memory is what gives meaning to survival. It's what turns suffering into lesson, loss into identity. And the Night King understood this better than anyone. His army did not simply kill the living. It erased them. When someone fell, they did not become a tale, a warning, or a name carved into stone. They became silent, faceless, interchangeable. Their history ended the moment they rose again. No past, no future, only function. That is why his army was uniform. No individuality, no voices, no memory, just endless repetition. A frozen future where nothing new could ever exist. No growth, no mistakes, no redemption, no change. This was not domination. It was extinction in its purest form. The children of the forest created the Night King to end a war. They wanted a weapon powerful enough to stop humanity from destroying the world. They wanted balance through force. And in doing so, they created something that took their instruction too literally. The Night King did not choose sides. He chose finality. If humanity was the source of endless violence, then removing humanity solved the problem forever. No more war. No more suffering. No more memory of pain. And that is what made him truly terrifying. He wasn't cruel. He was consistent. Consistency doesn't hate. It doesn't doubt. It doesn't hesitate. It simply continues. That consistency explains his obsession with Bran Stark, a choice many viewers misunderstood or dismissed as vague symbolism. But Bran was never symbolic. He was practical. He was the one thing the Night King could not allow to exist. Bran carried the complete memory of the world. Every mistake, every lie, every truth, every cycle of destruction and rebuilding. As long as Bran lived, the world could begin again. Stories could be told again. Humanity could return, even from ash. Killing kings would not end humanity. Burning cities would not end humanity. Slaughtering armies would not end humanity. But erasing memory would. That is why the Night King marked Bran. Not as a threat to his body, but as a threat to his purpose. The mark wasn't rage or vengeance. It was recognition. The Night King understood that his war could not be completed as long as someone remembered what the world once was. This also reframes Jon Snow's role. Jon believed the Night King was his enemy because the Night King threatened life. Jon fought to protect people, to save the living, to hold the line. But the Night King was not interested in life or death as opposites. He was interested in closure. Jon represented survival. The Night King represented the end of the idea of people altogether. That is why their final confrontation never happened. The story didn't deny us a duel. It revealed that a duel never mattered. Steel cannot kill an idea. And Jon Snow, for all his strength, honor, and sacrifice, was never the answer to a war against memory. Arya Stark wasn't either, at least not in the way many people believe. Arya didn't defeat the Night King because she was the better fighter. She defeated him because she represented something he could not calculate. Arya survived by shedding names, faces, and histories. She learned how to become no one. She existed in the space between identity and absence. The Night King destroyed memory by force. Arya escaped it by choice. She did not cling to who she was. She let go. And in doing so, she became invisible to a force that only understood erasure from the outside. That is why she could get close enough. That is why he never saw her coming. But even Arya was not the true opposite of the Night King. Bran was. Bran did not fight. He did not flee. He did not hide. He sat. He waited. He carried everything the Night King wanted to eliminate and refused to let it disappear. He was the quiet defiance of existence itself. As long as Bran lived, humanity could never truly be gone. Not because people survived, but because meaning survived. This is what reframes the Night King's ending. He did not lose because he underestimated Arya. He lost because his goal was absolute, and absolute goals leave no room for the unexpected. His flaw was not arrogance. It was certainty. He believed erasing memory was enough. He never considered that memory could be preserved not through strength, but through stillness. When the Night King shattered, his army fell with him because they were never independent beings. They were extensions of his purpose. Once that purpose failed, they ceased to exist. And in that moment, the war didn't end with victory. It ended with continuation. History was allowed to keep moving forward. That is why the Night King never sought the Iron Throne. Thrones require people. They require subjects, belief, legitimacy. He didn't want rule. He wanted silence. And that is why we misunderstood him. We thought we were watching a story about power, about kingdoms and crowns and who deserved to rule. But the real conflict was always about remembrance. About whether the world would be allowed to forget itself. The Night King wasn't defeated by a blade. He was defeated by the fact that the world remembered itself long enough to refuse erasure. Winter did not come to rule. It came to end the story. And for the first time in Westeros, the story refused to end. And that brings us to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.